Today, we're challenging basically everything you think you know, or at least everything you've been told about the conventional path to success. We're diving into a fascinating, kind of esoteric text from 2006 that lays out a totally radical philosophy on alternative living. It literally asks us to completely rethink our relationship with society, ambition, and even our everyday habits. So if you're feeling a little tired of the standard script of modern life, well, this explainer offers a roadmap to something entirely different. And it kicks off with this incredibly striking metaphor. It says, if you wish to make your life stand out like a crane among chickens, you must act without striving, handle things without interfering, and savor the flavorless. It suggests that our natural instinct to just blend in and conform for safety, that inevitably leads straight to mediocrity. If you actually want to radiate wisdom and stand out, like that crane, you've got to adopt these three highly paradoxical habits. Which leaves us looking at a pretty stark choice, doesn't it? I mean, taking the familiar road of least resistance really just means repeating the exact same fate as everyone who came before us. But this new paradigm shift? It promises a path to reaching the realm of ultimate bliss and breaking out of that mundane cycle altogether. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the path to extraordinary, then we'll hit those three main tenets: act without striving, handle things without interfering, and savor the flavorless. And finally, we'll wrap up with the ultimate brilliant life. Let's get into it. Section 1. Act without striving, unconventional thinking. Now, this first tenet, it is absolutely not about just being lazy. It's about actively breaking your own habitual thought patterns. You really have to be willing to step away from the crowd and blaze a totally new trail. The text says, the masses plant watermelons, I plant pumpkins. It's kind of quirky, right? But what the author is doing here is a very deliberate exercise in breaking programming. If literally everyone around you is doing one thing, your instinct shouldn't be to just join in, but to actually look for the alternative. They head north, I go south. This demands sheer commitment. We're talking about swimming upstream while everyone else is happily coasting downstream. The author points out that while everyday folks might seem super sharp with their clear worldly goals, the enlightened person is perfectly fine looking a little dull, confused, or even foolish to the outside world. Why? Because they're intentionally going the exact opposite way. And this whole idea even extends to how we learn. They study scriptures, I play music. See, while the masses are hyper-focused on rigid texts and expected rituals, the enlightened individual is exploring the abstract, finding profound meaning in the flow of a melody rather than just literal rigid study. That's how you truly act without striving. It's really about engaging that more fluid, creative side of the brain. Ultimately, it's about reaching a state of total fluidity. You have to discard your rigid personal biases and stop over-relying on your mind's constant, exhausting processing. The text says, the highest goodness is like water, meaning you accept what comes without any resistance, you're comfortable dwelling in places others avoid, and when events pass, you just return to a state of stillness. Moving on to Section 2. Handle things without interfering, doing what others avoid. So, if the first tenet was all about how we think, this one is about how we act. The conventional path tells us we need to flock to the big cities, chase these massive grand schemes, and read endless books to get smart. But the practitioner? They retreat to the countryside. They hum lullabies instead of plotting those grand schemes, and they read the heavens, the earth, and humanity instead. It is a huge, profound shift away from the exhausting hustle of conventional life toward a much more serene, almost indifferent approach. And the text takes a really bold look at the heavy societal obligations we all carry around. It argues that the masses dedicate their entire lives, all their exhausting labor, to four main pillars: family, party, nation, and religion. These are basically the massive structures that dictate conventional morality and purpose for most people. But then it introduces this sweeping detachment. I work for none. Now, the author isn't advocating for malice or being selfish here. They're advocating for absolute freedom. While the masses are all tangled up in these worldly institutions, the practitioner just wanders through life. They focus purely on the joy of the soul, savoring the peace of the present moment, completely unburdened by the collective machinery. Which brings us to Section 3, Savor the Flavorless, Truth in Simplicity. This tenet is all about finding the extraordinary hidden right there inside the ordinary. So what does it actually mean to savor the flavorless? Well, It's finding truth in absolute simplicity. True revelations don't usually come from loud, profound wisdom or just by listening to the teachings of sages and reading religious scriptures. No, they come from direct, quiet experience. It's about sensing the universe's natural rhythms of ebb and flow in the mundane, everyday things you see around you. No matter how beautifully others describe their dreams, it remains their experience. I love that line. You simply can't reach enlightenment just by reading about someone else's journey. If you want to gain insights from a dream, you have to actually enter the dream yourself. All of this profound knowledge has to be verified through your own personal, silent experience. Truth isn't found in words or specific forms, It has to be lived. To really ground this abstract spiritual concept, let's use a deeply visceral metaphor. To taste the true natural flavor of a piece of fruit, you must avoid adding sugar or salt. Think about that. We are so used to artificially enhancing our lives with drama, relentless ambition, constant digital stimulation that we've honestly forgotten what life actually tastes like on its own. Savoring the flavorless means learning to appreciate exactly what the masses would consider completely tasteless. And that leads us to our final part, Section 4, The Ultimate Brilliant Life, a Roadmap to Enlightenment. So how do you actually take these highly unconventional tenets and survive walking this difficult path in the real world? Well, you need a few highly specific requirements. First, set a clear goal. Then, enhance your understanding of the world. Next, awaken to the truth of life. And finally, establish unwavering faith. By following these steps, you can remain completely constant in the face of constant change. This is exactly how you adapt to any circumstance without losing yourself and ultimately achieve that brilliant life.
But there is a final warning here, and it's about how we measure our own spiritual progress. The conventional view often leaves people burdened by more and more rules, endless rituals, and super strict precepts. But this text argues the exact opposite. The further you progress in true cultivation, the more flexible, free, and boundless you should become. Basically, if your path is getting more constrained and difficult to walk, you're probably doing it wrong. True spiritual fruit is absolute freedom. As we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with a direct challenge. Take a hard look at the conventions you follow every single day. What artificial sugar do you need to stop adding so you can finally taste reality? And what societal rules must you unburden yourself from to become truly flexible and boundless? Take a moment, step away from the crowd, and really think about it. Keep questioning the ordinary,